Thousands of competitors from all across the world, over $500,000 in cash prizing, and a chance at being crowned an international champion. The Latin America International Championships, or LAIC, is one of the most important events in the competitive Pokemon circuit. There are only 3 internationals held each year, and every one of them has massively increased prizing and huge attendance, attracting the best players from every corner of the globe, including myself, of course. I made the trip all the way from Australia to Brazil with a single goal in mind: taking home that sweet first place trophy, proving that I was not just one of the best players in Australia, but one of the best players in the entire world. The stakes at these tournaments are insane. The competition is seriously fierce, and making a single mistake at any point could cost you everything. And once you reach those top tables towards the end of an event, surrounded by only the other final competitors, the pressure is like nothing else. But that's what makes competing so exhilarating: all of the highs, the crushing lows, every nerve-wracking decision. And this event in particular had some of the most intense moments that I've ever experienced while playing Pokemon. So I'm going to tell you all about it. Everything always starts with the 60 card deck that you choose to bring. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but when it comes to these high level tournaments, this is often the most important decision to make, and it happens before you even step foot in the venue. Once those 60 cards are locked in, that's what you're stuck with, and you can't change anything for the entire weekend. No changing decks between days, no swapping cards, no sideboard. You've got to live with those deck building decisions. And due to just how much search exists within Pokemon compared to other TCGs, each and every one of those cards really matters, and even the final choice of what your 60th card should be, whether it's more consistency or an extra tech card or some spicy secret, can completely make or break a tournament run. Luckily for me, this was the easiest time I've had locking in a deck throughout my entire Pokemon career. You see, less than a week before LAIC kicked off in Brazil, I was competing in a different South American country, playing in the Buenos Aires special event in Argentina, where I managed to pull off an impressive run to top 8 with my Terrapagos Dusknoir deck featuring a cute 1/1 Regidrago V-Star line. During this run, I fell in love with the deck. It felt like every matchup was super winnable, and I almost always had interesting options and lines to make comebacks. But Argentina was just a warm-up for me. LAIC has almost 10 times the number of entrants and way more on the line. Could I really get Lightning to strike twice and make this deck work again? Well, I was still extremely confident in Terrapagos as a deck and how it matched up against the rest of the metagame, and I truly believed that including the Regidrago V-Star line was the best way to play it, even though no one else was doing it. Despite further testing, once I reached Brazil, I genuinely could not find a single card that I wanted to change for the event, and just locked in the exact same 60. But I wouldn't be the only one playing at this time. With a couple days of testing to convince them, I also managed to gaslight my mates who I was rooming with, Julian and Angus, to run the exact same 60 as well. It's always a nice feeling to have some mates on the same deck. So after we checked in and grabbed our swag bags, which had some pretty neat stuff this year, it was time to sleeve up all our decks, and now there was just a single challenge standing between me and round 1, actually getting a good night's sleep. Let's just say I probably need to work more on that than my actual Pokemon skills, because it did not go well. But it's fine. I made it to the morning of the tournament alive, breathing, and full of the world's most mid-scrambled eggs, and a few shells as well, thanks Novotel. Now, my main goal was obviously to win the whole thing, but every great journey needs a side quest to go along with it. And personally, mine was crystal clear: get a Play Pokemon stream shirt. Not because I was dying to play on stream, although it would be sick, but because I'd been sweating it out in the South American heat for over a week and was just about out of clean t-shirts to wear. I just wanted to avoid that classic Pokemon player stereotype and make sure that I smelled alright for the event, because no one wants to be that guy. If you want Big Pika to throw in some Play Pokemon undies as well, then you'll need to subscribe right now. And also, let me know in the comments what other Play Pokemon merch they seriously need to start making. But while I was on my phone in line for the venue watching this banger tweet do numbers, I started getting messages that pairings were up. So I go to check out who my round 1 opponent was going to be. The way pairings work is that you'll be matched up against someone with the same number of match points as you. So generally speaking, that means the better you do, the stronger your opponents will be. But when it comes to the first round of a tournament, it's a complete wild card. You could be up against literally anyone. Unlike many other competitive games, there is no seeding done beforehand or anything like that. So theoretically, you could have the 2 best players in the room running into each other in the very first round. But it's such a massive event, the odds of hitting another top player in round 1 are incredibly low. Realistically, I'm just going to hit one of the many more casual players, someone's parent entering for fun, or even be lucky enough to pair someone who didn't even rock up on the day. I hit John Eng. This bloke is one of the best players in the game right now, with an absolutely stacked Limitless page full of countless top cuts at both regionals and internationals, including a win at Portland Regionals last season. And because pairings came out so early, I had basically a whole hour to stress about how tough the very first round of the tournament was going to be. Fortunately, once we sat down, John was super chill to chat with before the match, but I could tell that neither of us were particularly happy about pairing each other so early into the tournament. Realistically, this could have been the pairing for a win and in. Once the set started though, it was clear that we were both feeling the pressure. Normally, the first couple rounds aren't too difficult and let you ease into the tournament setting, but we'd both been thrown straight into the deep end. Each of us playing extremely carefully, knowing that if we made a single mistake, the other was very capable of capitalizing on it. I was lucky enough to win the initial coin flip, which really matters in the Terapagos vs Regidrago matchup. This meant I was naturally at an advantage in game 1 and was able to play cleanly and eventually set up an almost checkmate board state, with Regidrago V-Star, Pidgeot EX, Pheasantipity EX, as well as a Hoot Hoot, which I could potentially evolve to find even more resources. He fought back by KOing my Regidrago and playing Temple of Sinnoh alongside Iono, which is basically the best thing that you can do in that situation. But the odds of me drawing out of it were just too high, and I was able to use Pheasantipity EX to draw 3 more cards up to a 6-card hand. All I needed now was Boss's Orders and Area 0 Underdepths, plus either double Turbo Energy and Ursaluna, or a way to fill out my entire bench. A combination of Pidgeot's Quick Search and Noctowl's Jewel Seeker gets me there, and I win game 1. But this first game took a while. Nearly 30 minutes. We were both playing so meticulously, thinking through every single decision, and the game absolutely could have gone either way right up until I drew those final cards off of Pheasantipity to flip the script. In game 2, he obviously opts to go first, but he opens Lone Regidrago V and just goes Attach Energy Pass. This is exactly what I want to see. My setup is alright, but Pidgey is prized, so it isn't perfect, and I don't have easy access to a double Turbo Energy. On his side, he does have a supporter in hand and is able to begin setting up properly, but still can't attack just yet. Now I have a decision to make. I can guarantee the double Turbo Energy that I need to attack by searching out Colress's Tenacity. However, this will enable his Curum's Plasma Bane ability, allowing him to attack for a single energy. It is such a pain that this card does technically have Colress in its name. Giving him this option could completely throw away a game that I should be extremely favored in, by opening up a line for him to come back without needing to power up Regidrago. I took note that I hadn't prized any double Turbo Energies, so the odds of me drawing into one are pretty high. I opt to use Iono, hoping to find one in the top 6 cards of my deck, otherwise I won't be able to attack, and I whiff. Suddenly, this isn't looking so great, and what's worse is that this hand doesn't just lack energy. It's missing any fuel for the engine and is a complete brick. I am really regretting not playing that 2-2 Pidgeot line right now. However, my board is still really strong, and I'm just a single top deck away from getting right back into the driver's seat. But the clock is ticking, and I check the remaining time for the round. We might just be able to finish a game 3 if I concede right now, but there is no guarantee I'll win that one, and I still think I'm really favored in this game if I just draw out of this hand. I just have to pass it back without attacking, but that Iono seems to have stuck him as well. All he can do is thin out some cards from his hand and use Cleffer to draw back up to 7. I top deck a Switch, which doesn't really help much, and I just have to pass it back again. But it's not like he's got much going on either. To my surprise, he still can't attack and makes a whole bunch more actions, thinning out the hand once again, and then just ends his turn with another Cleffer Grasping draw. Then I draw yet another dead card off the top. But now there's almost no way we'll have enough time to finish a 3rd game, so I just have to commit to playing this one out, but I can see an opportunity to make a comeback. During all the hand thinning to draw more off of Cleffer, he actually benched a Radiant Charizard. The massive 3 retreat on this guy might give me a line to come back into this game. I have to pass back without attacking for a 3rd turn in a row, and finally he manages to piece together a fully powered Regidrago V-Star, but it does cost him the use of his Legacy Star in the process. He gets a couple more turns of attacking while I continue to draw absolutely nothing, but I do find a Regidrago V that I bench, since it gives me an additional out if he lets me evolve it into the V-Star, which I already have in hand. He actually chooses to ignore it and lets me evolve, giving me access to Legacy Star with prizes at 6-2. However, time gets called and I'm no longer able to win this game. Now my only goal is to make sure that he can't win in his final 2 turns. Legacy Star lets me find both Counter Catcher and Iono. I bring up his Radiant Charizard that has 0 energy on it, put him down to a 2-card hand and pray that he cannot draw out of this. After drawing for turn, he thins out his 3-card hand to 0 and draws an additional 3 with Muse Restart. But other than a hand attached to Charizard, he doesn't have anything. One more turn. There's nothing else I can do to disrupt him, and I just have to pass back, hoping that he doesn't find a way to retreat back into Regidrago. He doesn't have it, and that means that I win the set. It really doesn't feel great to win like this, and I would have definitely preferred to play out a full-length best of 3, but that isn't always possible. So I wish him best of luck for the rest of the tournament and move on to round 2. This time, I'm faced against a Walling deck with 4 Mimikyu, some Cornerstone Ogerpon EX, and a Rotom V to draw cards. This matchup can be seriously difficult since I don't have a solid way around Mimikyu that isn't blowing up my own Dusknoirs. But my spicy Terapagos build is much better suited for this matchup compared to other standard Terapagos lists. The key cards in this matchup are Lost Vacuum to get rid of the tools buffing Mimikyu's HP, particularly Hero's Cape, Duskulls, Dusknoirs, and Rare Candies to aggressively break through the Mimikyu wall, and Night Stretches, Thornton, and Regidrago V-Star to let me reuse even more of the Dusknoir enabling resources. If I have access to all of these tools, I can reasonably get off 3 Curse Blasts in a single game. Other than that, my only other way to damage Mimikyu is through attacks from random support Pokemon like Noctowl or Fan Rotom. In game 1, I prized Boss's Orders, Chorus's Tenacity, Buddy Buddy Poffin, Hoot Hoot, Ultra Ball, and Double Turbo Energy. Nothing impactful missing, and I had an easy time setting up and overwhelming his wall, winning on turn 3 by Lost Vacuuming away his Hero's Cape, since that's the only way to get Mimikyu's HP out of range of Dusknoir, and then popping multiple of those fake Pikachus with a couple Curse Blasts to close out game 1. Game 2 is where things start to get a bit more difficult. Remember those key cards I said I really need for this matchup? Well, this game my wonderful prizes included Regidrago V, Pidgeot EX, Duskull, and Dusknoir. But I did have a hilariously blessed opening hand. Not the usual Terapagos start that you'd be hoping for, but I opened with Buffalont in the active and had 2 double Turbo Energies in hand. Since my opponent opted to go second, that means that on turn 2, I was swinging with Buffalont's Boundless Power for 90 damage, which definitely isn't an attack I thought I'd ever be using. This allowed me to start ripping through Mimikyus without burning through my very limited Dusknoir combo resources. Of course, this attack has the very necessary downside of preventing Buffalont from attacking on back-to-back turns, because otherwise it would be way too good. So it's a slow process, but I'm putting on enough pressure that he has to bench Rotom V for draw, which will most likely end up as another free 2 prizes for me. We get to an endgame board state where things are looking pretty grim. I need to take one more prize but have basically no more ways to get through Mimikyu. He checks my discard and it seems like I'm out of resources and won't be able to evolve my final Duskull into Dusknoir. Then I Ultra Ball away my Regidrago V that I finally took off the prizes to search out Regidrago V-Star. What am I cooking? I Thornton away my Terapagos into Regidrago V and evolve it into Regidrago V-Star immediately. This is possible because Thornton transfers the turns in play of the original Pokemon, and then use Legacy Star for Rare Candy and Dusknoir, winning me the game and the set. So I'm 2-0 now, which is a great way to start things off, but I haven't actually mentioned how many rounds I'll be playing or how many of them I'll actually need to win in order to progress. Since the tournament has 1,810 players in the Masters Division, that means I'll be playing 8 rounds on day 1 and will need 18 match points to move on to day 2. Which is either 6 wins and 2 losses or 5 wins and 3 ties. But since every point counts, I'm aiming to do even better than this. Then in day 2, there will be an additional 4 rounds, and after that, the top 8 players, as well as anyone who has the same record as 8th seed, will progress to a single elimination asymmetrical top cut, and I'll most likely need around 30 match points to qualify for this. But I've still got a lot more Pokemon to play before I can think about being in top cut. Round 3, and I'm up against a Lugia player. Game 1 is a back and forth match where it comes down to a board state where he has 2 prizes left to my 4. He's got a fully powered up Raikou V in the active, but it has a Legacy Energy, so it's functionally only worth 1 prize. I'm able to use Counter Catcher to get around it and KO a Lumineon V with my Blood Moon Ursaluna EX that has a double Turbo Energy attached, evening up the prizes at 2-2. He even has a second Lumineon waiting on the bench, so if I can survive one more turn and find some gusting, I'll be able to win the game. But now he has a tough decision to make. With no way to one-shot my Ursaluna and no other easy 2 prizes on my bench, he can't win the game this turn. He can either try to attack my Ursaluna this turn, setting up for a KO next turn and forcing me to find a switching card if I want to attack with it again, as well as the boss's orders to gust up his 2-prizer. But if he does this and I were to play Penny or Professor Turo's scenario, I'd basically win the game on the spot. Alternatively, he could just gust up my benched Hoot Hoot, limiting my deck search since I'll lose access to Noctowl's Jewel Seeker, and I don't even have a Pidgeot EX established. But it would mean that a single boss's orders from hand would be enough to win me the game. And even if I don't fight it, he'd need to follow up with another boss's orders since he has has no way to one-shot my undamaged Ursaluna. He makes the call and bosses up my Hoot Hoot, denying me the additional search, but fortunately, I do have the boss in hand and I'm able to simply promote Ursaluna and boss for game. Game 2, I have a slow start and he manages to pull off a turn 2 Iron Hands going first, so that's about all you need to hear. I can't respond and just scoop it up to go into Game 3. He has a really rough start this time, having to just attach Legacy Energy to his active Mincino before discarding everything in order to find a Lugia V. But I'm not able to capitalize on this as I can't find any gusting and just have to settle for KOing the rat and taking 0 prizes. This prevents me from building an early lead in the prize race and eventually drags the game on much longer than I would have liked. But it should be fine. When time is called, I'm still in a position to easily win the game in the next 2 turns. So I decide now is the perfect time to make a crucial misplay. I basically have the first turn of time to set everything up for a guaranteed checkmate on the following turn. With one bench space open, I put down Pheasantipity and use Flip the Script to see 3 more cards before using Quick Search or Jewel Seeker. Because of course I do, that's classic correct sequencing. If I naturally draw into my Area 0 Underdepth, then that's one less card that I'll need to search out. So when I whiff, I'm not phased at all. I'll just use Quick Search and grab it that way. There aren't any more Area 0s left in my deck. The last one is sitting in the prizes. Now I've bench locked myself out of playing Regidrago V, which I absolutely needed to get down for a complete checkmate. Since his only 2 prizer in play was Lugia V-Star, my idea was that if I had both Regidrago V and Duskull benched, he can only KO one of them on the following turn. If Drago is KO'd, then I can evolve Dusknoir alongside a Terapagos attack to KO the Lugia for the final 2 prizes. If he KOs Duskull, then I can pop Legacy Star to recycle Thornton and either Candy or Dusknoir, depending on which of the other pieces I need, to basically make the exact same play. However, without Regidrago V in play, he's able to just gust up my bench Duskull and prevent me from winning the game on the next turn. My mistake of benching Pheasantipity without realizing that my final Area 0 was prized means that I'm not able to win this game in turns of time, despite my opponent's rough start. The set ends in a tie. I am really kicking myself over this one, but I have to snap out of it because next round my opponent is playing the Palkia Terapagos Jet Energy deck. I lose the coin flip, which is pretty rough since it's way harder to go second in this matchup, but fortunately my initial setup is still pretty good. I have a Fan Rotom to get the ball rolling and I even have a Nest Ball to find my Terapagos. But there's a bit of an issue when I play that Nest Ball. See, there isn't actually any Terapagos in my deck. I can't tell you how many times I looked through my deck praying that I missed something. No way I've prized all 3 of them. But it's actually fine. I have Pidgeot EX in hand, so I just need to find one of my 4 rare candies, then I can quick search for Hisui and Heavy Ball, I'll grab out one of my turtles and I can salvage this game. Okay, I might have a problem where I see too many lines to win a game when most sane people would see 3 prize Terapagos and just scoop it up to quickly go next. But every other aspect of my setup is strong and I know I can win if I just draw a rare candy or alternatively use the 2 double Turbo Energy in my hand to set up an early Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. As long as they take a single prize, 2 DTEs will allow me to swing for 200 and hopefully unprize one of my turtles. I actually end up taking a KO this way before I can find rare candy for Pidgeot, and luckily I grabbed Terapagos off the very first prize. Although it was a bumpy road, I managed to claw my way back into this game and it all comes down to if he can find Boss's Orders and an energy off of an Iono to 2, plus his 3 Pheasantipity draws. But he gets there and I lose game 1. I came so close to the most insane comeback, but now I'm feeling down and thinking that I've wasted all of this time and should have just immediately scooped. Fortunately, I go first in game 2 and set up nice and smoothly, easily winning the game without even giving him a chance to make a comeback. But due to how long and drawn out game 1 was, we aren't able to finish game 3 and I'm left with another tie. Even now, I'm not sure if I should have just scooped game 1 at the start. Despite the initial setback, I came so close to winning it in the end and just needed him to whiff off of that final Iono. My goal coming into this event was to win the whole thing, and with 2 wins and 2 ties, I'm really not doing the best job of that. But remember, I did have a secondary goal, getting that stream shirt. After I've handed in my round 4 match slip, a few of my mates come up to me to let me know that my name got called over the speakers to go to the hive. I'm freaking out, thinking that I must have forgotten to properly sign one of my match slips or something. I rushed straight there, but it turns out I didn't mess anything up. They just wanted to interview me. There was a massive extended judge call on stream, so I still had plenty of time to do this before the beginning of round 5. My banger tweet had been going around backstage with the production team. Since they were making an effort to stream more local South American talent, I probably wasn't going to make it onto the stream. But they thought it'd be fun to at least do an interview with me and throw a shirt in too. Shout out to the production crew for making this happen and Pablo for hosting the interview. Now with my fresh new Play Pokemon shirt, regardless of today's tournament outcome, I could walk away a winner. I do still want to be an actual winner though, and with my 202 record, that means I can't afford to lose a single single match for the rest of the event. My next hurdle would be a Charizard EX deck, and it was extra spicy, including the A-Spec Stadium Grand Tree, allowing my opponent to easily set up Stage 2 Pokemon like Pidgeot and Dusknoir, as well as Charizard, but usually not the Lizard since it wouldn't activate the Infernal Rain ability. In Game 1, he sets up strong, and I'm just not able to clutch it out in the end, which means I have to win these next 2 games to keep my tournament run alive. I'm able to win a quick Game 2 by going first and just completely running him over, but in Game 3, he opts to go first, and despite my own strong start, on his second turn, he already has Dusknoir, Pidgeot EX, and Charizard EX all set up. This is looking basically unwinnable, but he prioritizes chasing down my Pidgey with Dusknoir, which I really don't care about, since I can just get it back with Thought and immediately evolve it anyway. Other than that, he just KOs my active Fan Rotom. In the Charizard matchup, it is really important to not take too many prizes as the Terapagos player, since taking more than one will allow them to start one-hitting your turtle if you don't have a double Buffalonta. So in response to this, I just punch his active Charizard, setting 220 damage on it. And because prizes are at 4 to 5 in his favor, he's not able to respond with his own 2-prize turn and just damages my Terapagos, handing things back. Now I can start to cook. I use Dusknoir to finish off his damaged Charizard and then gust up the benched Rotom V, taking another 2 prizes. This places him at a deficit of 1 to 3 and essentially locks up the game, since he has no way to take a 3-prize turn without Dusknoir or Briar, both of which are now off the table since I've only got a single prize remaining. I win the game and the set. In the next round, I hit my second Regidrago of the day. Despite it being, in my opinion, the best deck in the meta, it was only the 4th most popular deck in day 1, coming in right behind my beloved Terapagos Dusknoir. I lose the coin flip, so I already know this is going to be a rough one. And then a couple of turns in, I quickly realize that I don't have a realistic line and just scoop things up. Once again, my back is against the wall and I need to win back-to-back games in order to stay in the tournament. In Game 2, my setup is alright, but I have one key problem. On my second turn, I'm pretty much forced to use Professor's Research and have to discard my Colress's Tenacity. This means that even though I didn't play it, it is in my discard, and Kyurem's Plasma Bane ability is now online. I am in serious danger. Recognizing this, he uses Regidrago to copy Kyurem's attack without using Legacy Star, putting him down to just 2 prizes, setting up what is basically a checkmate position, since he has 2 Regidrago V-Stars in play. Despite having no energy on either of them, regardless of how much I disrupt him, there is basically always the option to use Legacy Star for Kyurem and a switch. As long as he has the energy in hand, he'll win the game and destroy my chances of making day 2. But you didn't seriously think I wouldn't find some insane line, did you? I have a Regidrago V in play and evolve it into my own Regidrago V-Star, then use a Legacy Star, grabbing Colress's Tenacity and Iono. With Colress out of my discard, suddenly Kyurem can no longer attack for a single energy, and with Iono leaving him on a 2-card hand and pretty much entirely out of resources, I managed to win the game. But I still need to win another game to claim this set, and since I'll be going second, the odds are not looking great. He sets up cleanly and gets off to a fast start, quickly taking the prize lead and then extending it to 6-2 in his favor, while all I've been able to do this game is damage his active Regidrago V-Star, and then time gets called. It's over for me, right? I'm down 4 prizes and have almost no way to win. Almost. On my first turn of time, I used Dusknoir to KO his damaged Regidrago, putting us at 4 to 1 in prizes. Now that he has just a single prize left, I'm able to use Blood Moon Ursaluna EX without any energy. Ursaluna also has the added benefit of having 260 HP, meaning that it is just outside the reach of Radiant Charizard, who would be the most likely follow-up attacker on his side. I Prime Catcher up his benched Mew EX to deny extra draw and play Iono, setting him down to just a single card in hand. On top of all this, I set up my own Regidrago V-Star, so that on the following turn, I can guarantee the second use of Prime Catcher. With just 2 cards in hand, he isn't able to respond, and I just use Legacy Star for Prime Catcher to win the game. My opponent could barely believe just how insane both of my comebacks were that set, and my heart was pounding the entire time, since I could have easily been eliminated at any point in either of those games. But the job wasn't done just yet, and I still have 2 more rounds to play. In the penultimate one for the day, I was up against another Lugia, but with Buffalon in my deck, I think it's a pretty comfortable matchup, although they do win the coin flip, which makes things a bit more difficult for me. Luckily, in Game 1, their start is pretty slow, and I'm able to get far enough ahead before they finally set up that the game is essentially already over. Game 2 isn't quite as smooth though. They set up a really strong board and take the first couple prizes. And even though I respond with my own 2-prize turn, they now have 2 fully stacked Cinccino set up. When he took his second KO and the prizes were at 4 to 2 in his favor, I swear my opponent said, "I'm pretty sure I win this one." And I just had to do my best to hold back a laugh. See, Briar is a very funny card, and the way it works is that even though your opponent needs to be at hit 2 prizes when you play it, the effect still lasts for an entire turn. So I can rip Briar, pop Dust Noir to KO one of his Cinceros, putting prizes at 3-1, and then counter catcher up his bench Lumineon V for those final 3 prizes, winning the set with a clean 2-0. Now it's time for the final round of day 1, and with my current record of 5 wins, 0 losses, and 2 ties, I could technically take an intentional draw here. This would guarantee that both me and my opponent can make it through to the next day. You see, LAIC was actually the very last tournament to have the old day 2 system where you required 18 match points to progress. In the current system, which was implemented immediately afterwards, you actually only need 16 match points, meaning that I wouldn't even need to consider taking the tie here, since a loss would still allow me to continue playing and have a chance at a cash finish. I'm a massive fan of how the new system works, since at the end of the day, it lets more people play more Pokemon, which I think is sick. But unfortunately for me, it hadn't been implemented at the time of this tournament. I'm actually the very last 502 player to make it to the table, and by the time I sit down, everyone else has already agreed to tie with each other, and my opponent is really keen for that tie too. I know with the mentality of wanting to win the event, I shouldn't take an ID like this. Maybe it was the pressure of everyone else doing it too, maybe it was how badly I was craving a nap, or maybe it's because I was just confident that I would go 4-0 in day 2 and make cut anyway. But I took the ID and guaranteed that I'd be back tomorrow. At this point, it was getting pretty late, and I'd had nothing to eat but nut bars and Gatorade since breakfast, and I am absolutely exhausted. Once the round is over for everyone else, I meet up with some mates and grab a quick feed before heading straight back to pass out at the hotel. Unfortunately, both Angus and Julian didn't do quite as well as me with the deck, and neither of them made it into day 2. But the real tragedy here is that because they didn't have to play tomorrow, they went out for a proper dinner and didn't get back until midnight, and if you thought my sleep was rough on the first night, yeah, thanks for letting me know, Pokemon Sleep. I make it to the venue feeling kinda functional, and guess who didn't learn from their mistakes and is full of those same terrible scrambled eggs. Anyway, it was time for my first round of day 2, and if I wanted a realistic chance at top cut, I would need to win every single round today. Up first is a Gardevoir. I win the coin flip and go first, and it is a super tight game. I go down to a single prize while he still has 3 remaining. This means that he needs to attack with Gardevoir EX, since anything else can be easily return KO'd. My Pidgeot EX already has some damage on it, so if he finds Iono and Counter Catcher, I could definitely lose this one. But he whiffs on the Counter Catcher, and I'm able to just quick search for Boss and win the game. In game 2, he opts to go first, and I already know that he plays Klefki. This annoying set of keys can be a serious pain in the matchup. With its mischievous lock ability, while it's in the active, all basic Pokemon lose their ability. If they are able to get it down before your first turn, Fan Rotom is completely invalidated unless you can somehow move Klefki out of the active. He opens with Drifloon, but goes completely all in for the Klefki play, using Artisan to find routes, and then Ultra Balling away a couple of cards to get Klefki, attaching to Drifloon and retreating into it. Then, on top of all this, he uses Lost Vacuum to remove his own Artisan to further deny me any chance of setting up. But this leaves him with just 1 card in hand, and I feel so bad for him when I rip the absolute nuts. Nest Ball for Terapagos, attach double Turbo Energy, Buddy Buddy Poffin for a couple of Hoot Hoots, and then Professor's Research into a fresh hand full of Noctowns to keep me going on the next turn. He was fully relying on bricking me off that Klefki, and with my setup being this strong, the game is basically over. With a couple more turns, I win before he can even piece together an attack. When I sit down for round 10, I am hit with every cheater's worst nightmare: deck check. This is where judges randomly take a look at a top table player's deck to ensure that the 60 cards match what was submitted, and that none of the cards are marked or easily identifiable in any way. Luckily, I'm not a cheater and have nothing to worry about, so both me and my opponent get our decks back without any issues and begin playing with a slight time extension to make up for the deck check. He's on Raging Bolt, a really favourable matchup for Terapagos. Even though it was the most popular deck in day 1, I got unlucky and didn't actually hit any of them. Speaking of the meta share, Terapagos shot all the way up to number 1 for day 2. Looks like I made a pretty good call playing it. I easily win game 1. The majority of the time, the matchup just goes like this. Terapagos sets up a 1 prize board state, the Bolt player is forced to take a single prize, and then you just go 2-2-2 and win. There are some intricacies on both sides, but it's usually how things end up. And then I just completely brick game 2. With literally 0 playable cards in hand, I scoop it up and confidently move into the 3rd game. All I'll need to do is not open up a 2-prize Pokemon and have an even half decent setup, and I should win. And that's exactly what I do, easily taking the lead in the prize race and setting myself up for game. Recognizing this, he makes a desperation play where he gusts up my Regidrago V, hoping to abuse its massive 3 retreat cost since I'm out of both Switch and Prime Catcher. But I just evolve it and use Legacy Star, grabbing back the Prime Catcher and winning the game. I'm sitting at a record of 7 wins, 0 losses, and 3 ties. With just 2 rounds left, if I win both of them, I'll be guaranteed a spot in top cut. I'm up against a Charizard Terapagos deck, a new spicy creation that's been having a bit of a breakout performance this tournament, and I am really not prepared for it. But I wouldn't have made it this far if I didn't know how to improvise and work things out on the fly. I lose the coin flip and have to start on the back foot, but I treat it similarly to the standard Charizard matchup, and I'm able to keep up with them. I've got 4 prizes left, but with 220 damage on his Charizard, I have a chance to win right now. Literally a chance. A 50-50 on whether or not I draw Prime Catcher off of these next 2 prize cards. I am almost certain that if I don't win on this turn, he'll have game thanks to Pidgeot's Quick Search. It all comes down to this. I pop Dusknoir to finish off his damaged Charizard EX and then slowly reach for my prize cards. First one, nothing. Second one, please show me that bright purple card. It's not Prime Catcher, and all I can do is just punch into the full health Charizard that he promotes. My heart drops, and I realize that I am not the protagonist. I don't have the heart of the cards, and I'm not just going to win every one of these 50-50 scenarios. But that hasn't stopped me before. I've already won multiple sets this tournament where I lost in Game 1. And in Game 2, I'm able to quickly and cleanly win, going first and just running him over in a few turns. In the final game of our set, he goes first and has a really smooth opener. And I don't. My setup is shaky. My play isn't perfect, and I crumble. Losing the game, the set, and my chances of making top cut. I really thought I could do this, so the harsh reality hits incredibly hard. But there was no time to mope over this loss. I still had one last round to play, and winning it would guarantee me some cash, while losing it would leave me with nothing. And I was going to be playing the Terapagos Mirror for the first time in this tournament, a matchup I was incredibly comfortable with. I win the coin flip too, which further fills me with confidence. And then I see my opening hand, and it all falls apart. I've at least got a Terapagos, double Turbo Energy, Pidgey, a couple of Hoot Hoots, but no Noctowls and no Fan Rotom, and absolutely no way to find them. I was completely reliant on my top deck, and it sucked too. His setup, on the other hand, was near perfect, and he even managed to get down 2 Duskulls, which really had me sweating. I top deck a Rare Candy, which would have been great if I actually had Pidgeot EX in hand, but I don't, so I just punch for 70 damage into his active Terapagos. He recognizes that I have nothing going on, but a single Noctowl off the top could get me right back into this game. So in order to deny any potential Pheasantipity EX draws, he chooses not to take a KO on anything and just sets damage on my Terapagos. I top deck a Buddy Buddy Poffin. Bit late for that. I use it to thin out the deck and just grab 2 Duskulls since my third Hoot Hoot is prized, and it's a bit late for Fan Rotom. Then I punch for 130 damage, not even enough to get the KO on his turtle. But then he decides to go aggressive. Knowing that he's going to have to take a KO here, he chooses to go for more than just 1. More than just 2, but 3, popping 2 Dusknoirs to get rid of both of my Hoot Hoots, limiting any potential surge, and then finishing off my active Terapagos, putting me at a prize deficit of 2 to 4 and leaving me without any way to search my deck or even attack. But you see, the thing about popping Dusknoirs when it doesn't actually win you the game is that it gives your opponents more than just a couple prizes. They're also getting the cards from those prizes which help to build out their hand. Off of the prizes, I find both Prime Catcher and a Nest Ball. I use that Nest Ball for Pheasantipity and draw 3 cards. This includes a Dusknoir, which I use in combination with the Rare Candy I already had to take 2 prizes on his damaged Terapagos. In those 2 prize cards, I find another Nest Ball, which lets me search out Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. And since he has just a single prize card left, I won't need any energy and can just use Prime Catcher to bring up his bench Terapagos in order to win the game. That has to be one of the first times I've ever won a game with this deck where I didn't evolve a single Hoot Hoot or Pidgey the entire time. He absolutely got too aggressive with the Dusknoirs, and I'm glad that I was able to punish this misplay. Would you believe that in Game 2, I also had no way to find Fan Rotom on turn 1? And to make it even worse, I was going second. He learns from his mistake, takes things a bit slower, and doesn't even give me a chance to make a comeback this time. I need to lock in and play my absolute best for this final game. Thousands of dollars are on the line. I have the advantage of going first, and although I finally see a Fan Rotom, the rest of my start is pretty average, especially compared to his once again near perfect opener. We go back and forth for a few turns and end up on a board state where he has 3 prizes left and I still have 5 to take, but I do have some damage set up on his Pidgeot. However, I'm stuck with Pheasantipity on my bench, which is quite a liability. He'll almost always be able to finish it off for 2 more prizes and lock up the game on the next turn. On his side of the board, other than the Pidgeot, there aren't any easy to KO 2 prizes, just a Terapagos, and to KO that, I need to use Blood Moon Ursaluna while he has just a single prize. I already have access to 1 Dusknoir though, so with Thornton, I could make this happen. But of course, Thornton is chilling out in the prizes, because why wouldn't he be? I start my turn off tunnel visioned on winning the 2 out of 5 chance to take Thornton off of the prizes, popping Dusknoir to finish off his damaged Pidgeot and putting prizes at 2 to 3 in his favor. But I don't see the Thornton off of the prizes, and once again, just like last round, my heart sinks. I would have just been able to win the game on the spot if I was a little bit luckier. But you can't only win games of Pokemon when you're lucky. I am so exhausted, but every single one of my remaining 3 brain cells are working as hard as they can. I still have access to so many pieces, there has to be a way. And then I see it, the perfect checkmate. I search out Lost Vacuum so that I can remove the stadium and get rid of my Pheasantipity EX. But I also need my Terapagos to be able to withstand a Blood Moon Ursaluna attack. So first, I use Legacy Star to grab back 2 Buffalon, benching them both and then removing the Area 0 Underdepths, leaving me with a Terapagos in the active and on the bench, as well as 2 Buffalon, Pidgeot EX, and Regidrago V-Star also on the bench. But this isn't quite a checkmate yet. He could still pull off something like a Dusknoir plus attack to get through one of my tanky 2 prizes. And with no stadium in play, my own damage is now limited to just 130. So I use Briar and Countercatcher to bring up one of his benched low HP 1 prize Pokemon and finish it off with Terapagos. This has to be the first time in my entire life that I've used Briar to take the extra prize without winning the game immediately. But now prizes are at 1 to 2 in my favor and he has absolutely no way to take 2 on his turn. All of my 2 prize Pokemon are way too tanky thanks to Buffalon, and he can't use Briar or Dusknoir since I have just a single prize left. He stares at the board for a good 5 minutes in complete disbelief, but I know that I've won. He can't do anything and I just drop Prime Catcher to finish things off. This might be one of the sickest plays I've ever made, and it was in such a high stakes match. I feel absolutely incredible. I've guaranteed myself a spot in the top 64 and $2,000 cash. It's not a win, but it's pretty damn good. But when the official standings come out, I'm absolutely shocked. I didn't just finish in the top 64, I got exactly 32nd thanks to resistance, by just 0.03%, which means $3,000 cash. Maybe I'm not so unlucky after all. Overall, I had such an incredible time throughout my South American travels, and finishing just 1 win away from top cut at an internationals has me absolutely itching to run it back. You can be sure that I'll be in London for EUIC in February. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one. Wow, you watched the whole video? You must have really enjoyed it. You should click the link on screen and watch even more, and do all the other subscribey stuff too.